Everyone's making out like bandits on a wildfire. I mean, except you, when all your stuff burns. And not these guys. But firefighters make good money, don't they? Well, they sure do. But these aren't firefighters. See, the Forest Service doesn't have any firefighters. Now, I know what you're thinking. He looks like a firefighter. He's wearing the yellow thingy and his face is all smudged and he's eating smoke every day, doing the exact same stuff every other firefighter does, but he's not a firefighter. He's a forestry technician. A forestry technician? Well, what the hell's a forestry technician? How should I know? I guess bush mechanic was taken. It's nothing. A forestry technician isn't anything. It's just a bureaucratic loophole that allows the Forest Service to get their men to do the work of firefighters without having to pay them like firefighters. As the Forest Service often will tell you, they are a land management agency. The base pay for firefighters and other agencies is nearly triple that of a forestry technician. You see, firefighters receive a certain pay grade called portal to portal, meaning when they go to a major fire, the moment they leave their station, their portal, they're getting full pay the entire time until they return to their portal. But forestry technicians only qualify for hazard pay when they're literally on the fire line. Forestry technicianing. If you're a CalFire firefighter, you work a 24-hour shift, then you get 24 hours off in a hotel, and you get paid for those 24 hours off. Hey, you're not at home. Portal to portal. When you're a forestry technician on a campaign fire, you work 16 hours and then immediately stop getting paid. And oftentimes, you then camp out and sleep just off the fire line, unpaid. As far as the Forest Service is concerned, you're not in the middle of nowhere on a fire. You're at home in your own bed, fucking your wife. Why should you get paid for that? The smoke that you breathe during a shift on the fire line is the equivalent of roughly 8 packs of cigarettes a day. And not to mention the stump fuckers, the fire chaser beetles who swarm to burn because they like to lay their eggs in the smoldering timber and crawl inside your face. And when you're spiked out, you get all of this while you sleep. And good luck if you're on night shift and you gotta try to get your sleep under July sunlight. And this is the closest thing to a shower that you're gonna get for half a month. California hotshots are the most elite firefighters in the world, and their base pay nets less money than a kid working at McDonald's. All because their agency classifies them as forestry technicians and not firefighters. You can tell them apart, right? Firefighter, forestry technician. Firefighter, forestry technician. See the difference? Firefighter, forestry technician. Got it? Same job, less pay. They breathe the same smoke. They get lung cancer just the same. They burn up just the same. And they die just the same. There's a lot of stuff that can kill you on a wildfire, whether you're a forestry technician or a firefighter. And it's not just the burning. Rocks, snakes, aircraft. Widowmakers.
We'll do it live. Okay. No. We'll do it live! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live! Thing sucks!
Welcome, everybody. Oh, man. You know, I thought I was going to take a bit more of a break. But then the Gav hands. The Gav hands have come for CalFire. You never thought it was going to happen, did you? With all those photo ops, with him always posing in front of the firefighters and the helicopters and like wearing their emblem on his sleeve as if he's one of them. He was never going to cut their pay. Well, times may be a-changin'. Do you think you have what it takes to survive a wildfire? Could you drive out of one if you had to? we're going to test your knowledge. Let's, we always talk about, hey, stay and defend. Don't evacuate. You can only do that if you know what you're doing. There's a lot of people who think they know what they're doing, and they really don't. It can be pretty bad. Let's get into it. There's another thing that's going on here, guys, which I didn't think was going to happen. Is fire season starting back up again? Now, back in 2019, we had an extremely slow fire season. It was extremely slow. And, it was coming off the heels of 2017, 2018, just back-to-back monster years. And so it was a welcome reprieve. But the thing was, it was so slow that there were photojournalists who, I don't know if I'm going to name them, publicly cursing how slow fire season was. Like, this person was upset that there wasn't more death and destruction for them to go take pictures of and try to make money off of, like hucking it to the Washington Post. But that's if that's any indication. This person was doing like bush burning rituals out in the desert, like a rain dance for wildfires, trying to get more action. This is why in Hot Shot we had such an extended piece on the scumbag media, because look, there are plenty of fire photographers who are great, they do it right. And then there's a bunch who are just absolute scumbags, and they cheer on the destruction, and it's just so gross to watch. And a lot of them are in corporate media, you know that. They're sort of like drive-by media. But here's the thing about 2019. It was slow until all of a sudden it wasn't. And it was weird because it was like all summer long, all throughout August, nothing happened. Nothing happened in September. Then all of a sudden, October comes around, and it's like a switch got flipped, especially towards the latter half of October. Then all of a sudden, you had Palisades Fire, 2019. Now, that wasn't too bad. There was no real destruction, but it was scary. And then you had the Tick Fire come through my neighborhood. You had the Kincaid Fire up in Sonoma. You had the Easy Fire in Simi Valley. You had the Getty Fire. You had the Maria Fire. All of these things kind of all at once, right at the end of October. So we were on our heels for all of season. And then things started picking up. Well, it seems like we didn't have anything. Now, all of a sudden, we just got a little watermelon. We got the Sandia Fire. This is down near San Diego. This is in San Diego County. And it was only 24 acres. So, it's not something that I would necessarily be too concerned about. But just the simple fact that we're getting an ignition and that we're sending VLATs to a fire, I was honestly surprised by that. I was actually really surprised. It wouldn't have surprised me if we didn't get a single brusher for the rest of the year. Just because, like I've been saying repeatedly for months, this year ain't it, okay? Like all the toothpaste got squeezed out of the tube back in January, and we've been getting rain. I think we got to pay attention, okay? I'll just say that, just to hedge my bets here. October can be that weird confluence of events where you get something that Daniel R. Schulte, wildland fire behavior analyst, says Woolsey Fire 2018 in Agoura Hills. Dude, that fire was such a nightmare. That was such a nightmare. But just keep in mind, 2018 was already a busy year. That was already a big fire year. And then, the campfire in the Woolsey was just like the horrific cherry on top. 2019 was unique in that it was super, super slow. And then you had a bunch of fires just rip through October. And then you even had the Cave Fire in November, like up until almost Thanksgiving. I think it got put out by snow on Thanksgiving. And so the thing you got to pay attention to is there's a phenomenon that the cunning Phil Cunningham likes to refer to as flash drought. This can be a point of controversy, but I've seen this. I've seen this happen where if you have enough windy days in succession, it can kind of erase very quickly some of that fuel moisture bounce back that you got. Okay, now we're already getting a bit of a green up throughout parts of California. So look, I'm not terribly concerned about this October, but just keep that on your radar. It's like, stay frosty. Don't let it sneak up on you. At the end of the day, we should also be considering doing some like prescribed fire at this point. So now, I just wanted to share with you guys, sorry, I was a few minutes late for this broadcast, but so my wife, she used to be a teacher, and I got to tell you, man, she did not know how to cook at all. All of a sudden, when we get married, she's super interested in cooking. And she's become a really good cook. She made this amazing dinner tonight. So that's why I was a little bit late. But she was making salmon and asparagus, and she was cooking this rice, and it smelled like popcorn. I'm like, what is that? She's like, it's rice. I'm like, it smells like popcorn. She's like, well, it's brown rice. I'm like, oh. I'm like, are we not doing white rice anymore? You got a problem with white rice? She's like, no, brown rice only. I'm like, what are you, racist? I'm going to leave a little space for the laughter track. Dude, that joke kills in Australia, by the way. So, what else do we got going on, guys? we gotta test your knowledge. Let me ask you something. What is the main motto on this show besides do it live and only listen to people with mustaches? Is don't trust panic. Don't trust panic. Now, look, I don't consider myself much of an investor. Okay, I'm terrible with money, but I will say, you guys remember Elon Musk? He used to be a hero on the left, right? He single-handedly, he brought electric vehicles to the point where they are now, right? They were in the dustbin of history, and then he is fundamentally responsible for completely resurrecting it. Now, I think EVs are going to become the dominant vehicles, right? So he's a hero on the left. Then all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, over time, he gets frustrated with all the woke stuff, and then he supports President Trump. And then President Trump wins, and now everyone on the left is like burning all of his Teslas, okay? It was like such a weird moment in time. But then, do you remember when he had his little spurg out with Trump and they like blew up on each other? Tesla stock plummeted because all of a sudden, he's got no allies, right? So he burned all his bridges on the left. Then he just burned all of his bridges on the right. But the thing is, it's like the left wasn't willing to take him back. And so now he's just out on an island. I thought this dude's going to get on a fucking spaceship and just go live on Mars by himself. And so, all of his investors bailed, right? I let that happen for about 2 or 3 days. And then I bought Tesla stock because it rebounded. And now we're close to all-time highs. So it was a good move. There was another one recently, Netflix. So everybody's freaking out over Netflix, right? And even Elon Musk, again, he's saying cancel Netflix on Twitter. Everybody, they're doing the Bud Light thing, right? So everybody cancels Netflix, their stock plummets. So I waited a few days and I bought some stock. And of course, now we're up like 20% since I bought it. This is not investment advice. This is life advice. What are the 2 lessons that we get from moments like that? Never trust panic. And the other one that we're going to talk about today is people forget very quickly. People forget very quickly. So everybody panics, they all sell, and then you'll get that dip. And then everybody forgets really what the controversy was about. Elon Musk is now back in the good graces of President Trump, and everything's, groovy for the company. And so everybody will forget this, and they'll move on to the next stupid thing that everybody obsesses over and they think is the end of the world. So if you can just avoid the panic and remember that people forget things, you will do very well in life. Now, when I went to go see Spencer and Heidi on their podcast, after the show, I told them, keep doing what you're doing, because there is this pattern with wildfires in California, especially the devastating ones, where you will have all the world's attention for 2 weeks, and then after that, that attention, that empathy, that concern, the generosity that comes with that bias for action to try to fix things, it drops off a cliff precipitously, immediately, and people forget, right? And I'm always showing you these old fires because I'm trying to point out just how easily we forget these lessons from history and we keep repeating them. And yet, here we are. Now, how does this tie in? How does this tie into what's going on right now? The big news with the Gav hands. Gav hands coming for CalFire. Let's get a little summary from the man himself.
Oh, after all the photo ops with CalFire firefighters in front of the fancy helicopters, making his Twitter background screen, him in CalFire outfits, cosplaying like he's their commander, Gavin Newsom just vetoed their pay raise, which would have brought them to parity with other fire agency. After all that grandstanding, bragging about raising the pay, falsely accusing the president of cutting the firefighting budget in the Forest Service, here Newsom is spitting in the face of the guys he forced to be political props all year as he desperately tried to dodge scrutiny for how he is at fault for burning down the Pacific Palisades.
This is good. Dude, I don't know how he writes this stuff. That script is just on point. No notes. Just incredible writing. I don't know where he gets that stuff from. It's just outstanding. I mean, for a C-list reality star, how does he know so much about wildfire and wildfire politics in California? How does he know all this terminology? He's such a quick study. It's crazy. So what he's talking about is the California Assembly. Just like, look, California politicians are a legit meme. The kind of stuff that they put out is just so crazy. But, I'm not going to get into the politics side of this. But this was really interesting. This came from Heath Flora. So this is Assembly Bill 1309. Now, Heath Flora, he's in District 9, which includes Sacramento and areas south of that. This is what Gavin Newsom did. He says, to the members of the California State Assembly, I should do it with the Gav hands. To the members of the California State Assembly, I'm returning Assembly Bill 1309 without my signature. This bill would require the Department of Forestry and Fire Protection to pay firefighters within 15% of the average salary for corresponding ranks in certain local fire departments. This measure would also require an annual survey of the salaries and benefits for fire chiefs in 5 specified fire departments. While I appreciate the author's intent, this bill would create significant cost pressures for the state and circumvent the collective bargaining process. Okay. This is really interesting. So let me just sum it up for you guys. The California Assembly was going to try to bring CalFire's pay up to parity, P-A-R-I-T-Y, with other agencies. Okay, this makes sense. CalFire is no longer just the CDF. They're not just the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. They are an all hazards agency. Okay, they're doing technical rescues. They're dealing with floods. They're dealing with structure fires. They're doing medicals, all kinds of stuff. Like the wildfire component is obviously that's their bread and butter, but that's just a part of it. They're an all hazard agency, just like any other municipal fire department. So it would make sense that you would pay these guys accordingly. On top of that, when you're dealing with a wildfire, and January should have been evidence of this, even though we didn't need more evidence. A wildfire can take out 1,000 homes or 7,000 homes like it's nothing, right? So if this work doesn't get done, my goodness, look at the amount of destruction that we get. On top of this, because the scope of the job has changed so much, and these guys are dealing with these massive urban conflagrations, they are sucking in so much toxic smoke, it's not even funny. And when these guys are on wildfires, they are not wearing SCBAs. It's just not a thing. So the health impact of what they do is so significant. So they're looking to try to just get their pay in alignment with other agencies. The other thing that they're trying to do ostensibly is they're trying to improve recruitment and retention of firefighters. What's interesting about this, and I played that clip on the front end of the stream for a reason. All of a sudden, CalFire is getting the Forest Service treatment. All of a sudden, they're feeling like, hey man, we're not getting paid as much as the other dudes who are on our fires. What gives? I can't afford to live in California. Hey, we're having a hard time filling positions and recruiting people. Now, this is interesting because I know a lot of dudes from the Forest Service who couldn't wait to lateral over to CalFire because they get better pay. They get portal to portal. They get all this neato stuff. They get to wear Navy pants. That's the pinnacle right there, is getting to wear Navy pants. So it's really weird to me now, all of a sudden, CalFire, which is always been this agency where guys get paid really well. Now all of a sudden they're not getting paid enough. What the fuck is going on? But there were some interesting points in this bill, or I should say in Gavin Newsom's letter, aside from his like Bart Simpson signature down here. My goodness. It's got to be the worst signature I've ever seen. So he says, the bill would create significant cost pressures for the state. Guys, I think there's something a little unspoken here. I think California is insolvent. I think Gavin is aware of some financial woes that maybe have not been publicly announced. I think they might be broke. And so the other component of this, circumvent the collective bargaining process. Just to give you a bird's eye view of what that is. Collective bargaining, that's just where the union and the employer are negotiating for these things that would have been in the bill. Now, I think it's perfectly reasonable to say, hey man, the normal process is you use collective bargaining to reach this stuff. That's how it was done for CHP, and CHP, they were basically pushing for the same thing, right? They wanted parity with other police departments, and that came through. But here's the problem, and nobody's talking about this. What's funny is I should have watermarked this image because I posted about this story, and then all of a sudden everybody's posting it, and they took my image, but whatever. Here's the thing that nobody's talking about, and they're all missing this. Because it's really easy to just go for the clickbait of like, oh, Gavin's blocking CalFire's pay bump. And the thing is, dude, how many times have I told you that CalFire hates this guy? Are you guys finally starting to get it? That I wasn't just pulling that out of my ass. I'm not doing like a Candace Owens thing where I'm just saying, trust me. Guys, this is the truth. I know a lot of CalFire guys. And the funny thing is, ever since Spencer posted that, he's got tons of CalFire dudes in his DMs like, now he gets it. He understands what I mean when I say CalFire hates Gavin. They just have to deal with him, right? But here's the thing that everybody is missing on this and why this is so nefarious. There's two elements to this. The first one is collective bargaining. Okay, so let's say we just accept that the reason why he did this is because this is not the normal process. It has to go through the normal process. He just screwed that process. What leverage does the union, the CalFire firefighters, what leverage do they have now? What do they have? And because here's the thing, the firefighters, much like what we talked about with the Forest Service, the firefighters, they have to deal with bureaucrats. They have to deal with their own ologists. I keep pointing this out with the Forest Service, how this is destroying firefighter morale. It is destroying their pay. It's destroying it's destroying our communities because you have all these stupid bureaucrats, the smart, stupid people with PhDs wedged in between the fire chief and the firefighters to where these guys are now picking up trash and cleaning graffiti instead of doing fuels management in the off season because the fire chief isn't directly above his firefighters. So right now, CalFire has their own version of this, where now they have to go to the bargaining table with their own ologists, with their own bureaucrats who are going to dictate how this agency is run and who gets paid what and who deserves what. Here's the problem. Their bureaucrats know they don't have any other option because Gavin Newsom just gav-handsed the other option, which was this bill that passed with almost unanimous consent. So everybody was on board for this. Who wants to block firefighter pay? Well, Gavin does. And now the firefighters have to go to the collective bargaining table, try to drive up the same kind of deal. And these bureaucrats are going to be like, sorry, guys, you're just going to have to take what we offer because we know you don't have any other options. What are you going to do? Ask Gavin for a raise? He already blocked it. He already screwed them. What's the other, more craven component of this? I want you to look at the date. Look at that date, October 3rd, 2025. Maybe some of you guys know this. What is happening in Sacramento, California on October 3rd? What's happening there? So on this day that Gavin Newsom blocks the pay of CalFire firefighters. And look, guys, there's arguments like they already get paid a lot. And, I saw Helislacker had, I love that guy. He's great. So, when he says something, I think it's important that we take it to heart. He says, as a taxpayer, they get paid pretty damn good already. Just saying. And see, this is what I'm saying. The Fed guys are all kind of itching to go to CalFire to get paid more. And so that's why it's interesting to see this dynamic playing out in CalFire. And the thing that Helislacker also pointed out is that, the Feds are kind of considered like the farm system. If you think about baseball, it's like the farm system for CalFire, where the federal government spends all this money and hours training up these studs who do wildfire only. And then they get their EMT certs, and then they lateral over to CalFire to get more pay. And then CalFire becomes like AAA ball in order to lateral over to a municipal department like LA County or LAFD, where they can get paid way more. So unfortunately, you have this kind of attrition where you end up losing the studs. They go from the Forest Service to CalFire and to LA County. But obviously what that means is for a federal firefighter, CalFire looks pretty dang appealing. So we do have to ask ourselves, like, what should these guys get paid? What should they get paid? The thing is, it's easy to look at, like CalFire guys, I think they make like 120 grand. And captains, I think they get close to like 200 grand, which is, it sounds like a lot of money, but not in California, right? In order to afford the median home in California, you got to make like $182,000 a year. Okay? It's hard to make ends meet in California, especially because of this dude. This dude is just making it so expensive. Like, there's other factors, of course, but it's like, it's so expensive that money goes away pretty quickly. But here's the other side of this. It's not just about what they do every year, right? We can talk all day about how valuable stopping wildfires is, right? It's not just that. A buddy of mine, he died a few years back. He was a captain in the Los Angeles Fire Department, and we lived just down the street from each other in Canyon Country. His name was Paul, and he used to walk his dogs past my house every day, and he'd stop and we'd chat. He was in great shape, but we'd always talk. Dude was in his 50s. Still young, vital. But like in the middle of talking, every once in a while, he would just start hacking up a lung. Just uncontrollable hacking, coughing, wheezing. And then he would march back on up to his house. Super fit. And he died in 2020. Way too young. And unfortunately, this is the reality for so many firefighters. Whether that's CalFire, municipal, or the Forest Service, like we're seeing with Fernie on Texas Canyon, who's dealing with cancer right now after the Eaton fire. These guys go into this profession knowing full well that it's going to shorten their lives, right? They're sacrificing their lives. So even if they don't necessarily have a line of duty death, at the end of the day, they know it's shortening their lives. And they know that even if they don't get struck by a tree on an incident or have a burnover, they know that at some point it's inevitable. They're going to get emphysema. They're going to get cancer, right? Look at the work that Diane Cotter's doing. It's not just about the smoke. It's about their own PPE, right? Their own PPE is giving them cancer. Their own Nomex is giving them cancer. So they know that they are basically signing away their lives to do this work on our behalf. And so the whole point of paying them well is to take care of their families when that day inevitably comes, which it always does. I know it's morbid, but that is the reality. So in answer to that question, what is significant about October 3rd? What is happening in Sacramento on October 3rd? The great Sue Thompson nailed it. It's a firefighter memorial. This happens every year, and they do this to honor the fallen. So this is happening in Sacramento on October 4th. And Gavin Newsom decides he's going to shit all over this pay bump to try to bring CalFire guys up to speed with other municipal agencies. He does it the day before their memorial. Now, what this memorial is they have the families from recent line of duty deaths, and they honor them. They read their names. They pass out the folded flag to their families. So this is a very somber, serious, stoic memorial. There's a lot of tears and pride. You know, firefighting, it's sort of like it's kind of like a paramilitary operation. You know, there's rank, there's discipline, there's the way that they speak and train and accept the realities of, you know, the danger of their job. And there's folded flags going to widows and families. There's a brotherhood amongst these men and women that, you know, even those of us who are just sort of sartorially orbiting around it. And yes, I know a lot about fire, but I am not a part of that. And I never will be, right? This is a very, very sacred place. And we honor our dead. And we honor this selfless sacrifice. There is something so grotesque about Gavin Newsom signing this the day before this. And I can't shake it, dude. And the thing is, like, this isn't just me being upset about it. Like, who cares if I'm upset about it? This is so insulting to the firefighters. And I know that a lot of them are very, very upset about this. And they look at this as like, this was a deliberate slight. And, you know, I don't know if that's true or not. You know, sometimes this is just the schedule. This is how these things happen. But the lack of awareness, especially given how granular Gavin likes to get with this stuff. You know, people will push back on me like, hey, why do you criticize Gavin so much? It's like, he's the one who chooses to get this granular with wildfire, where he's the one who's, you know, going on Sean Ryan, talking about all this stuff and all the details and how many helicopters we have. He always wants to brag. He wants to wear the CalFire emblem on his sweater. He wants to use them as props for his political grandstanding bullshit. So then he has to own it. If he's this on top of things, how does he not know? This is in Sacramento. This is in his backyard. How is he not aware that this is happening? How does he not have the sense to say, hey man, we're gonna table this and we're gonna spend this week honoring the dead. And that's all that we're gonna do. We're gonna honor our fallen firefighters. We're gonna give space to these families. We're not gonna kick them in the nuts and say, yeah, I'm blocking your pay. I can't get over this, man. I really can't. So I would encourage you guys, look up the California Fire Foundation, watch the whole memorial ceremony. You know, the thing that I'm always saying is that, you know, fire protection, especially with wildfire stuff, this is a two-way street, okay? We have this responsibility to firefighters in the same way we have a responsibility to police officers. Like when you're in a traffic stop, right? They're not the ones who have all the obligations. We both do. Right? You put your hands on the wheel, vehicle's off, put the key on the dash, you roll down all the windows, turn on the interior dome light. You have to have an appreciation for what they deal with. What are the dangers that that officer is facing when he comes up to your vehicle? And you make sure that you mitigate those things. And it's the same with firefighters. We can't just rely on them to come and do this work and to fight and die and sacrifice themselves for us. We have to provide a safe operating theater for them, defensible space. We have to set them up for success. We have to learn fire behavior. We have to know when it's good to stay and defend and be of assistance to them. Like, I'm gonna cover some stories from the Oakland Hills firestorm where civilians who stayed behind helped some firefighters carry a hose lay uphill because it was like, you know, once that thing was charged, it was like 1,000 pounds. And you had this whole convoy of civilians lifting this hose lay for these guys. There should be a cooperative agreement between civilians and firefighters where we understand that we have responsibilities too. We have a responsibility to harden our home, provide a safe operational theater for these guys, have the sense of when it's time to evacuate, have an awareness of when it's red flag day, know your surroundings, know your evacuation route. You know, I think this is a two-way street. So if you guys can take the time, watch this memorial. I think it's good to be connected with these fellows and not just see the Nomex and the helmets running in and doing this work. I know everybody sort of honors firefighters, but I do think that personal connection, internalizing it, becoming your own like firefighter assistant, basically, you know, that's what we should all see ourselves, those of us who live in fire country. Now, you guys might be saying, what the hell do you know? You don't live in fire country. Well, I do. I still do. Even though I left California, I'm in Tennessee. And we get wildfires. Now, I'm going to show you some footage from a
We are
wildfire
now
that we had.
evacuating.
This is from a fire that we had in Gatlinburg, which is east of me. It's a couple hours east of me. This is like Dolly Parton territory, even though Dolly's got a house just down the road from us. So now, we talked about you got to have some kind of situational awareness. You got to know when it's safe to evacuate, when you're doing something bad, when you are in the shit. Like we did our whole piece on the short bus, the Lost Bus, the McConaughey film about the campfire. I remember seeing so many videos, okay? It wasn't like the movie where McConaughey's driving a school bus through like a wall of fire for 5 straight minutes. But, they were stuck in traffic for like 5 hours. Now, people did get burned over in their vehicles. A lot of people, they didn't just get burned over in their vehicles, they drove off the road, okay? They drove off the road and got caught in a berm, and that's where they unfortunately met their demise. And this is very, very common. I see this all the time with evacuation. So it's important that, if I'm going to tell people, hey, evacuating is really dangerous, which it is. It doesn't mean that you don't do it, but you need to keep this in mind that sometimes it's safer to stay. Sometimes it's safer to stop in a certain area. But if I'm going to tell you don't evacuate, you have to know why not and when is it not safe. So we're going to test. Let's test your knowledge. Let's test your understanding of fire behavior and your discernment. And if you know if you're in a bad spot or not. Daniel Firecopter says firefighters are warriors. This is 100% correct. And I saw some sniping, by the way, where like some municipal guys, or they might not have even been a municipal firefighter. They were saying, CalFire, do they really deserve as much as LAFD? Like, first off, yes, they're an all-hazard agency. And secondly, again, somebody could easily just say, from CalFire, they could easily say like, hey man, you guys work 3 days a week and all you do is shove Narcan up wizards' noses. You're dealing with 85% medicals. Like, I'm out here hiking a hose lay 5 miles uphill through a bunch of snags, risking my life, like puking from the intensity of the workout, surrounded by, a 50,000 acre furnace. And if we don't get this line tied in, we're going to lose 7,000 homes. Okay. All of this interagency rivalry, to me, it's so silly. All you guys are risking your lives. You're doing God's work. Let's just leave it at that. Let's try to get their pay bumped. But now, you as a civilian, what's your responsibility? You've got to understand when you're in a bad spot. I want to show you, this is footage of mine. This is footage of mine from the Apple fire. This is up on Banning Bench. Now look at that spot get established, by the way. Just so you watch that spot. I'm going to start from the beginning again. I want you to get an understanding of just how quickly a spot can get established, right? And this could happen behind you and then you're cut off. So I want you to watch this and I want you to get in the chat and tell me, is this a good spot or a bad spot? And what would you do if you were where I am? And watch this thing unfold. So now watch this spot get established right there. And immediately it's running. Look at that. Do you think you could outrun that, by the way? And it just shows you the difference of, how quickly things move in grass. Those lighter fuels, they rip so fast. All right, so I'm going to maximize this and I'll just keep talking over it. Good spot, bad spot. That dude is just sort of casually walking. Now, I would say this is a good spot. Honestly, I think it's a good spot. Now, obviously, I can say this in retrospect because I know what happened. But you'll notice, look at this building, this little barn back here. You may or may not see it, but these guys ended up just bumping inside the building, and they just sheltered in there. They let the fire front push through, and then they came on out. You see them going in there? So this is not a bad spot. You got a bunch of dirt here. This pine tree here is kind of disconnected, so it's very low likelihood that that's going to cause a problem for me. So despite all this, pretty gnarly fire behavior, this is a good spot. And you see it's sort of staying in that footprint because it's running out of fuels. So, this infrastructure survived. These low boys survived. So it really wasn't that big of a deal, as scary as that it looked. And I kind of had to make it look scary in the film. Because the real scary moments you don't make it out of, right? So there's only so much I can get on camera. Now I want to show you this video from Gatlinburg. Now, this is a guy, and I'm gonna see if I can get the volume right. But we're gonna pick this apart, okay? Because there's some things in here that I don't like. So this is Gatlinburg, 2016.
We are now evacuating as Chalet Village is on fire.
That's how we all talk.
Press us down.
So now, look at this. I would look at that fire behavior
Chalet
as
Village is
minimal.
on fire.
That's minimal. Minimal fire behavior. That's very low intensity fire behavior. Now,
Shit. Go, 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 go.
now you got some embers. Now, all right, that's my first strike
Should have
right
made these
there.
tires north beat. Go.
I can't see.
Just hit that fucking gas. You're on pavement.
Right there. Okay, big red flag. You got your co-pilot here saying, go, 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 hit the gas. And then the driver saying, I can't see. Okay, this is what I'm always talking about. This is why evacuation is so dangerous. It's you lose visibility, and you can see it here. You lose visibility, and the thing is, those embers that were raking across the road there, that's not going to set your car on fire. It's not going to pop your tires. You can actually take quite a bit of heat. You'd be surprised at how much heat you can take. I'm going to show you an example of that. So this is from the same fire, from the apple fire. This is me driving through the apple. Now, I want you to see the kind of fire behavior that we were dealing with. And, you know, I slowed down. I let that water tender go ahead of me. And you can see I'm not driving that quickly. And that was on purpose. Even though we got some tumbleweeds catching on fire and raking across the road, that could have been a problem for my car for sure if it got stuck under the undercarriage. But here we have like legit fire, you know, on both sides of the road. And it's ripping pretty good. But, you know, I only went like 10, 15 miles per hour because I knew like ultimately my car can take that kind of heat. It might warp some of the plastic, but if you're pushing through it, you're probably going to be okay for the most part. The important thing is that you don't hit the gas when you cannot see. Okay, so that's the big red flag here. So we're going to go through more of this.
We are now evacuating.
Scoot up.
We'll get out of it.
Look at
Hit
that.
the gas.
Look at that visibility.
I can't see.
You can see.
Hit the gas. You can see. I don't like that. There's no fire around them, so there's no reason to hit the gas. And if you can't see, and this is high elevation, by the way. They could easily just tumble off the mountain.
Everything.
Now, what else do you notice around them?
We're not gonna make it across.
What do you
the road.
notice around them?
Shit.
Shit.
Oh, fuck.
That sucks. That's a structure on fire.
You're good.
And that's the most fire activity you see is from the structures, actually. But the thing that you're noticing, pay attention to this. Look around. You'll see that, like, most areas in the hillside have already,
Fuck.
they've
Hit the
already
gas.
burned
Hit the
through.
gas.
Just crash
It's too hot in here.
into
Don't worry about
snags,
the
by the
lines.
way. And dude, it does get hot. It does get hot. That's hot. That's super hot.
Oh shit.
And the thing is, if you don't have tint on your windows, that is like extremely hot. Extremely hot. You will get second-degree burns on your arms. But look at the hillside. You see these little patches of fire? It's already burned through there. It's already burned through. So there's a lot of areas through here where I honestly, you know, you could be safe because it's already burned through. The only thing you would have to worry about is snags coming down. And if it comes down to like, you either camp out where it's kind of already burned through and it's low intensity fire, or hitting the gas through no visibility, I don't think you want to do that. Now, they come up to a point up here, which is pretty dicey. See, like all this is already burned through. Power lines are down. That's what you have to worry about is those snags. But the thing is, most of this is already burned through. So when you're in a situation like this, take it easy. Make sure you don't go off the side of the road. Pay attention, you know, if snags are coming down. You don't want to crash. That's the worst thing you could do right now. And so you got to have some awareness of like, if things have already burned through. The thing about the campfire, I saw so many videos there where people, they were like panicking and driving through an area that had already burned through, and some stumps were still smoldering, and they were like freaking out. It's like, guys, you're good there. Honestly, if you just sheltered there and waited for the visibility to improve, you'd be better off. They came up to a snag here that had fallen across the road here. That text, is that a text from my wife asking if we could get a pumpkin tomorrow? That's amazing. That's not code. Like literally, we're gonna get a pumpkin for Halloween. But look at this. Yeah, can we get a white pumpkin? Dude, she is racist. She wants to get a white pumpkin. What are we doing? So this is a big danger, right? Let's see what they're saying.
Here, hold on. Oh, dude, we are fucked.
You're not fucked, brother. You're not fucked. And that's the thing. It's like
Go through it.
this is yeah, go through it. This is what. Look at that. See, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, I had one of my wheels got taken out by a snag on the Kincaid fire, and that almost screwed me. So fire and smoke was raking across the road, and there was a stump that had fallen through maybe 2 feet into the roadway. So it wasn't all the way across the road, and you can't really see the road surface that well. And so I hit this thing, and it just cranked my wheel all the way to the side. And that completely incapacitated the vehicle. And that is your bigger risk, especially when the area is kind of already burned through. You got to pay attention to this kind of stuff. You're going to end up hitting something like this, and then you are totally screwed. And so what they ended up doing was they kind of just blasted through where the branches are a little bit lighter. What do we do with this? And what does this tell you? I get mocked because I drive around with an axe on my Jeep. Everybody, I don't know if my buddy John is still in here, but John knows full well. I have an axe in my Jeep. And everybody always wonders why. And it's because of this. Because I remember I got cut off on the Hennessy fire by a tree that had fallen across the road, and you got to clear it. Now, you could have a chainsaw, but it's not, that would be better, but it's not super practical to always have a chainsaw in your car. But having an axe in your car would not be a bad idea. Or even a little handsaw, something where if that happens to you, you're not cut off and you're not screwed, right? The other thing is you want to stay in your vehicle as much as you can. So however hot it gets in your vehicle, think about how much worse it's going to be if you are out there by yourself and it's just your skin, right? The other thing is get tinted windows. Tinted windows will block so much of that radiant convective heat. That is going to actually prevent a lot of burns. They learned this in Santa Barbara. There was a burn over many years ago where there were three engines, and they were all up in, I wouldn't necessarily call it a safety zone because it was pretty dicey, but that was their TRA, right? It was their temporary refuge area. And one vehicle had tinted windows. The other two were older vehicles. They did not have tinted windows. Well, the fellows in the tinted vehicle fared pretty well. The fellows in the other two vehicles got a bunch of burns, right? Because for some reason, not for some reason, it just blocks that radiant heat. So I've got limo tint on my Jeep, and that's what I was taking. I had limo tint on my Sprinter van. That's what I was taking to these fires. And I did that deliberately to try to protect from that heat. It makes it difficult to see at night. However, it's more important for that protection. And then there's a moment they come up on some dude who's parked, and they lose their shit. I want to hear.
No.
Go!
See, now here's the thing. I want you guys to tell me, are you with our homeboy holding the camera, or are you with the guy up front? Let's see how this unfolds. I know my decision.
Does this motherfucker want to die here? What are you gonna do? Just sit there? Hold on a minute. Guy, you fucking asshole. What the fuck is wrong with you? Go! Get the fuck out of here! Motherfucker, quit worrying about your goddamn car. Alright, we're having to get that idiot out of our way.
Oh God, I love Tennessee so much. What the fuck are you doing? God bless. Southwest East Tennessee, dude. Oh my God, I love Appalachia so much. It reminds me, it's October. This is the best time of year to go out to Gatlinburg. I gotta do a trip. Oh my God, my sides hurt. That was so fucking funny. Okay, so here's the thing though. I'm with the stupid motherfucker. Because he can't see. There's no visibility. Everything's burned out around him. There ain't anything left to burn. You can see it. You see that sort of like speckled, you just got little speckles of fire like that, right? That means there's very little stuff left to burn. Those are just branches. All the like debris on the forest floor has already burned through. The fire front has already passed through. So there's no harm in camping out there for a second and waiting for visibility to improve to make sure that you don't run off the road, run over a person, run into that snag that's across the road. It's important that as you do this stuff, as you're evacuating, if you're in this situation, that you're doing it deliberately and understand where I've seen the most fatalities is people who drive off the side of the road, right? Or they hit something. Dude, I had to rescue a guy on the bonfire, a guy who tried to drive through smoke, drove right past me. I picked a little safety zone, this dirt area. Fire was burning out all around us. And I ain't trying to move. I'm good here. I got enough clearance. This dude decided he was gonna make a break for it. Smoke's, laying across the road. He couldn't see. He ended up driving off the side of the road, nearly flipped his vehicle. He came running out, like soot all over his face, like, ah. And I'm like, dude, get in the car. And I, drove him to go meet his family. And of course, he had like all of his earthly possessions in his vehicle. And, the sad part of that is he lived next to a baseball field. His home was like quite literally right next to a baseball field. So he could have just gone out of his driveway and parked in the infield and rode it out there to be in a perfect safety zone. But because, he doesn't know any of this stuff. And, I don't necessarily expect anyone to know this stuff. But that could have saved his vehicle and saved all of his stuff. And, the dude almost died, And Doña de California says it could be blocked, maybe a road hazard. Exactly. This is the thing. This is most likely what's going to screw you in an evacuation is you either drive off the road or you drive into a snag that disables your vehicle and now you're stuck, right? That's the scariest part for me. So when you're dealing with this, remember, don't panic. Right? The most important thing is to stay calm, move deliberately, don't look at the fire, you look at the road, try to find landmarks. The other trick that I'll use when visibility is low and I need to keep moving is I will center myself on the center line. Now, obviously, if you're in a place like this, they don't got a center line. Most of these, forest roads in East Tennessee don't have a center line, but most roads in California do. Straddle that line. Make sure your hazards are on so that people in front of you and behind you have a better chance of noticing that it's not just a big wall or bubble of light coming at them, because that could be fire glow, right? But the flashing lights are going to indicate something man-made. Okay, so it's always important that you have on your hazards. So that way people behind you, people in front of you know that there is a man-made vehicle coming towards them and it's not just a ball of light that could be fire. So anyway, I'm gonna start chipping away at little things like this, right? Like identifying hazards and figuring out how people can navigate these wildfires in a safer way so we don't make mistakes. Because I gotta take responsibility. If I'm gonna advocate that people stay and defend their homes, well, then they need to have the discernment to know when they're in a bad spot or when they're in a good spot. So if you guys have any questions or if you've seen any videos, any like fire escape videos, I've seen a bunch, like on the Woolsey fire, watching people drive from the black through the flaming front to get out to the green. Because it's like, unfortunately, we have it so backwards. We have this perception of like, oh, I want to get to clean air. I want to get to where it's green and it's not all burned. But it's like, brother, that's what's going to burn next, right? So that you're putting yourself in danger when you go there. If it's already burned through, maybe it's worthwhile just riding it out, let that fire front get way ahead of you. And as long as there's not like a threat of trees falling down on you, maybe you should consider camping out. These are the kinds of things that could end up saving your life. The thing is, you may not understand just how like fastidious I was about certain things. One of the things that I would always do whenever I was going towards the fire, right? When I'm driving up to go film the fire, as I'm approaching it, what I would do is I would time tag every little turnout or safety zone that I passed. So if there was an area where things widened out and I had like 100 feet or 200 feet of just dirt, you know, like a big turnout or like a dozer push or something like that, I would hit my watch and I would time tag it until I got to the next one. And so then I would know, okay, that last safety zone was 1 minute and, you know, a quarter mile behind me. That way, if shit hits the fan, then you know how far away you are, distance-wise and time-wise, from getting to a safe spot. And this is important because you're gonna set trigger points, right? You're gonna be monitoring, how is this fire moving? Well, it's moving like 200 feet every 5 minutes or so. Well, now you know how long you have to get back to your safety zone. Where should you set your trigger point? You should set it far enough away that you have enough time to get to that safety zone. And so as I was driving through, if I drove past another one, I'd reset the watch and then, all right, now we're gonna time tag this one. And if I ever got to a point where I was driving like 5 minutes without a safety zone, sometimes I would like just turn around. I'm like, yeah, it's not worth it. I'm getting to a spot where I don't know the area. I don't know exactly where this road is gonna lead. And it's gonna take me 5 minutes to get back to that safety zone. This thing might outrun me. So those little things, you start becoming like Rain Man about time tagging certain things. That's the kind of stuff that will save your life. Little things like that. So, like I said, if you guys have any videos from like evacuating a fire or from being in the middle of something and you want to discuss like, hey, was this a bad call? Was this a good call? What could they have done differently? I think this would be a good like ongoing series for us to do. I'm gonna start doing more flame shame episodes, you know, with fire season kind of ticking down. And I think more just like understanding fire behavior, you know? I think it'd be good. I think people should train like this because, you know, we always say it's inevitable. It's gonna hit you at some point. So you might as well know what you're looking at and know how to survive it, you know? Remember that LA County document that we covered a while back from the 80s? I think it was like 1982, where they were saying, you're in control, you take charge. And they're telling you how to survive the wildfire and how to protect your property. I wanna get back to that. So we need to modernize that. So I'm gonna start showing videos of incidents. And I like sharing, you know, things that I've been through, you know, because I can tell you just how hot it was, just how dicey it was, just how fast I was driving, things like that. And then you can get a sense of like, is this really bad? You know, the thing was, this honestly wasn't that bad. It looked super scary, but for the most part, it wasn't that bad. You know, I could see to the other side. I felt like I knew what I was getting into, so it wasn't that bad. It just looks really scary. So if you can get acclimated to this kind of stuff, honestly, that calm demeanor and just being able to just like stay focused on the road and don't get distracted with the fire, that could save your life because everybody ends up looking at the fire. You know what I mean? They always train you with, nighttime driving. Don't look at oncoming traffic's headlights. Never do that. Never, ever, ever, ever do that because you'll steer towards it. And it's the same with fire. One more thing. Was it Goyo who sent me this? SoCal Edison is hiking their rates. They're hiking their rates. They just did 13% to support investments in the safety, reliability, and security of the electric grid. This update will begin on your October bill and the bills that follow. Look at this second part. We covered, I don't know how many people saw the stream where I was talking about just how corrupt like all of the prescribed fire budget money is and how suspect it all is. You know, because Gavin's always talking about 10xing the prescribed fire budget, but he's not doing any of it. So where's the money actually going, Lebowski? Number 2, on this SoCal Edison explainer for why they're raising your rates, they say you'll also see a California climate credit of $56 automatically applied on your October bill. The electricity rate increase on your October bill may be partially or fully offset by your California climate credit rebate. So this sounds cool, right? You're getting a climate credit rebate? They're just giving you $56? What? Now, you understand what this is? What this is they increase your rates by like 18, 20, 25%. So there's an additional fee on your electric bill, okay? They just bury it in the electricity costs. So it's not a line item, but they raise your rates. And I'm not talking about this 13% raise that they're enumerating here. What they do is your rates are inflated by like 20%. And that 20% goes to the California climate offset system, okay? So what Gavin Newsom and California legislators will claim is that they're making the polluters pay for carbon credits by buying up swaths of Northern California forest land, right, as carbon offsets. And they're saying, we're making SoCal Edison pay for this. Because, in generating electricity, they're the polluters, so they need to offset their business. But here's the thing, they're just passing on that cost to you, the ratepayer, and they're not telling you. So your rates are like 15 to 20% higher, and they're taking that 15 to 20% to pay that extortion and pay for these carbon offsets, which coincidentally all got burned up in wildfires. So it was all for nothing. And then what they do is they will give you back a portion of that and call it a California climate credit. So that's money laundering, where they'll take away, $200 a month, put it in these trees up in Northern California that get burned down, and then they'll give you back a portion of that. They'll give you back like 8% of what they took and make it sound like you're just getting a rebate. But it's like they already taxed that money from you. It's so nefarious. And the thing is like they do this just as a psychological manipulation. Because and this is legitimately how they describe it. If your rates are higher, then that's a disincentive for you to use electricity. They're trying to make it painful to use electricity. So this is why they will artificially inflate the cost of it. And then they give you a portion of it back. They don't refund the full amount that they extorted from you. They are just giving you a portion. So that way it sounds like, oh, this whole system is benefiting me. And they never tell you where it's actually coming from. How devious is that? California is the most corrupt place on the planet, man. At least in this country, I should say. I think Mogadishu is probably a little more corrupt, but dude, Gavin's making it close, man. He's making it close. He's blocking firefighter pay during a memorial to honor the fallen firefighters. Just when you thought he couldn't get any lower, those Gav hands just dig that hole deeper. Anyway, guys, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. I see that someone appreciated my rice joke, so I hope that it will live on. A lot of people will criticize dad jokes, but here's the reality. You're going to tell that joke. And you know what else? AI could never come up with that joke. Remember, in this dystopian world of AI, the only way to prove you're human is to do it live. Have a good night, guys.